Welcome to the prequel of a video I made called Would I Make a Better Villain Than I Would a Good Guy? Now in the sequel to this, which was me reading comments that you guys had left, the general consensus is you see me as a good guy, but you also see me as a guy who is willing to do some morally questionable things in the name of doing what's right. And I think reality is that's more what life is actually like. There's so many gray areas, and certain people don't feel comfortable getting into the gray. I do. I feel very comfortable. I feel more comfortable in the gray, knowing that ultimately, as long as I'm trying to do the right thing, I may break some rules. I may do some things that most people wouldn't do. As long as it's not illegal and hurting anything, I can kind of manipulate the situation a little bit, ultimately in the name of doing what's right and helping other people. That's how I see myself. That's how I want to be seen. What I don't see myself as, I don't see myself as a good person. Most people I've learned, that's how they see them. But I'm a good person. And that's what this video is about. How did I become this way? I used to be the good guy, the nice guy. That's how people saw me. And I took pride in, yeah, Nick, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. I do not want to be labeled that way anymore. That part of me died 7 years ago. That's why this is a prequel video, to explain why the good guy in me died 7 years ago and why I now am someone who wants to do what's right, but ultimately feels very comfortable knowing that wrong and right is not as black and white as we make it seem to be. Here's what happened to me. Here's my story. So when I was 29, my wife and I, we had our first child. That alone will toughen you up. But we made a mistake. We chose to move from Tennessee, where we had established our lives, and move back to my hometown in Alabama to be closer to family. That was a mistake because we didn't have jobs. We had $10,000 in savings, and we still had debts. Despite that, like college debts, for example, college loans. We moved away. For 9 months, we lived in Alabama, struggled to find jobs, and we finally did. They didn't pay enough. We ended up going through all of our savings, over $10,000, just to try to make that work, and it didn't work. Then, in shame, we had to move back to Tennessee, ask for our old jobs back, and got them. And even then, for the next year, I was working for the same person that I interviewed and hired. They were now my supervisor, even though I was a supervisor. So I had to do all that. It was very rough, and it wore me out. Because during that time I thought, but I'm a good person. Why is this happening to me? Why am I losing all my savings? Why couldn't I have got a good job? I've got a college degree. Why couldn't that have worked out? Why do I have to, this is so embarrassing. Why is this happening to me? It should have worked out that we moved close to be to family, and it should have worked out. And it didn't. You know, that was 7 years ago. Well, eventually we got through it. We've been building our savings back. We paid off all of our debts. But it really was an attack on my identity because I believed that I was a good person. That's what did it, you know? And now we have 2 kids. So it's like, and we've been married for nearly 10 years. And when you've been married for nearly a decade and you have 2 kids and you're still happily married, that meant that you had to work some things out with each other, and you had to work some things out with yourself. And the greatest benefit I've had, and you know I've said it before, is when I realized in the mix of it, I'm not just a good person, and bad things can happen to me, and people can say things to me that maybe I don't deserve, but you know what? If I don't let them emotionally affect me, then I don't have to be the victim. All of this has taught me that I must choose to be victorious. I can't allow myself to be a victim. I used to, because I'm a good guy. This can't happen to me. Now, you know what? I'm not the good guy. I'm not a good person. Bad things can happen to me. I'll expect it. Good things can happen to me. I'll expect it. Because it's not like bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. That's not how the world works. So therefore, I don't want to be known as a good guy. because I don't want to make it seem like I deserve good things and I don't deserve bad things. Bad things can still happen to me. And at the same time, if I'm going to be a leader, if I'm going to be a good husband and a good father, I've got to take charge. At times, I've got to lay down the law at times. I've got to establish order in the chaos. If I'm just a good guy, then my kids will walk all over me and my wife won't respect me because I'll never stand up for myself. That's what a relationship is about, is that you feel secure in yourself and the other people in the relationships in your family, that you stand up for yourself when you need to. You need to say, you know what, here's how I actually feel about what's going on, instead of keeping it to myself or whatever it is. So it's a matter of, I've learned to stand up for myself. I've learned to be very vocal about how I feel about what I believe needs to be done. And I've also learned, more importantly, to ignore most stuff. Most stuff doesn't matter, like the fact that I'm sweating under my arm. Oh no, I've got a low self-esteem because you can see I'm sweating. I don't care. Hey, you know what? I sweat. I sweat a lot. I drink a lot of water. There you go. It's funny because people have said too, well, you seem too confident in yourself. It almost seems disingenuous. I can understand that because most people you encounter are not as confident as I am. But of all the struggles that just stripped away and broke me down of what I thought I was, I want nothing to do with that person. I now want to be the guy that people know that you can't take advantage of me. I will call you out on it. At the same time, I won't be offended by it. And I think that is a delicate balance too, of not letting people walk over you, but at the same time, not getting emotional about it either. Taking care of business without getting caught up in what's personal. So there you go. I once was a nice guy. I once was a good guy. And now, because I can arch my eyebrows, I am someone who is willing to hang out where it's gray, morally gray. There's black and there's white. There's right and there's wrong. But I'm not trying to choose a side anymore. I think this is how life actually works. In order to do the right thing, you have to break a few eggs to make that omelet, which is ironic because I'm a vegan and I don't eat eggs.